What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to your favorite pond, the Coy Pond, episode 85.
Woo!
Oh yeah, 85. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host K-Dog in the house, and I'm Colin. As you know, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can find this on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and never forget to leave a question on SpeakPipe. We might get one day. I won't stop saying it because you never know. We just have to find the right audience that has too many questions, and I'm hoping that happens more football time. You know, if you want stock questions answered, we could do that too, if you have any. I mean, truly, any question you might have, speakpipe.com/thecoypond.
Whatever's on your mind, huh?
Whatever might be on your mind in that moment. And don't forget, there is merch. Check the description below for anything and everything you could possibly want our logo on. Be a part of the family.
Oh, yes. And what we will do is I'll send you a picture. I forgot to grab it and bring it in the studio. But we have some sample koozies and a sample aqua golf shirt, aqua colored. And so I'll send you a picture that you can put right here.
Beautiful. What screams summer like drinking out of the Coy Pond koozie in the Coy Pond?
That's right.
Or wherever you like to drink. Nevertheless, this week, as you know, we are going over the Chargers' 5 keys to success that I've kind of come up with, and in no certain order. These are all important points. There's probably 5 more you can come up with, but for this episode, these are the 5 points that I've kind of come up with.
Beautiful.
And as we know, the Chargers season last year did not end the way maybe some of you wanted it to end that way. I did not. I didn't love the way that ended. That was probably, I think, Justin Herbert's worst career game ever.
Was that a 4 interception game?
I think it was like 7.
Was it really?
Maybe 5. I tried not. It was bad.
Yeah.
Everyone can agree it was bad.
Right.
I don't want to think about how many interceptions, but I think it was like the same amount he had in the regular season combined, or ridiculous. It was like 32-12 was the final score.
Yeah. Who did they play?
Texans.
Okay.
Stroud obliterated them. It was a bad showing all around. That is what it is. Yep. Not to mention the last time the Chargers made the playoffs. Infamous 30-7 game against the Jaguars. Jaguars came back and won that as well. Justin Herbert, playoff success. Not there yet, no doubt about it. I'm not going to defend it. There's nothing to defend. They did finish second in AFC West last year.
Yep.
They were first in defense points scored against. They were first in.
Okay, the fewest.
They had the fewest points scored against them, which is pretty good, even though they played one of the easiest schedules in the NFL last year. I'm not going to act like that wasn't part of it for sure. But regardless, that is still a pretty good stat.
That's right.
Now, they were 19th last year in passing yards per game. And when you think of a team led by Justin Herbert, which previously had done very well when it came to passing the ball, that was not the case last year. Whether you want to contribute that to the O-line maybe not being quite up to speed with where you would expect it to be, whether you'd attribute that to really Quentin Johnston being your number 1 wide receiver at one point.
Yeah.
Whether you'd say the running game never really amounted to much for the Chargers until they kind of figured it out along the way, but it wasn't very fast and it wasn't very impressive.
I think you would have to say yes, yes, and yes.
Yes. And we knew Jim Harbaugh came to the Chargers last year the first time. Greg Roman, new offensive coordinator. There was going to be changes. I think even the defensive coordinator changed.
I believe so.
If I'm remembering that right, I feel like I should have wrote that down. I didn't. But there was a lot of new elements coming to the Chargers, a lot of new things to figure out, how to use Justin Herbert, where's his fingers at. I mean, the man has been batted down. Not as brutally as a lot of quarterbacks, but he's not exactly the healthiest guy you've ever met.
Right.
So, starting it off, key to success number 1. O-line.
Yeah.
Now, the Chargers kind of made a splash this year in the offseason signing Becton. I think it was Mikael Becton.
Yep.
From the Eagles previously, from the Jets before that.
Yep.
Who had come into the league looking to be one of the better O-linemen in the NFL. Didn't maybe amount to quite that legend, if you will. Went to the Eagles, did a really good job with them for a season, and now he signs with the Chargers for 2 years.
Yeah.
I really like this signing. Obviously, the Chargers O-line needed it. Week 3 against the Steelers, they kind of beat the shit out of the Chargers physically when they lost to them, or when the Steelers beat the Chargers. And having that one more guy with 7 years of experience now in the NFL to kind of help out, because after, I think it's Bozeman took over center, and they had Pipkins on left tackle maybe, but he was on the line. There was Slayer and a few other people around there that stepped up and did a good job. but adding one more veteran to that room with Jewalt and Slater, who have been in their first and second year last year, I believe.
Yeah.
It adds a real force to be reckoned with that I really hope doesn't allow quite as much hurry-ups that Justin Herbert had to deal with. A little bit better interior run blocking, which they kind of struggled with last year, given there hasn't been a great running game with the Chargers since, I mean, not even Austin Eckler, really, because he was more of a catching running back anyway.
No, I think the line is such a huge key piece to this. You're going to get to the other part, but the O-line for sure. He was a big piece. They get Joe all coming back.
Yes.
It looks like more than likely Zion Johnson, I think, is going to be center.
Yes.
Bradley Bozeman might be left guard.
Yep.
That's what it's looking like. And then they also have some picks in here, too. Branson Taylor was a line pick that they plan to put at guard.
Yes.
So they've really... And then this guy, Savion Washington, 6'9" and 340.
That's a big fella.
Taken toward the end of the draft, I believe.
Yeah.
Or undrafted free agent. But they really have done a lot to improve the depth. Improve the starters and improve the depth. So I think your number one here is spot on. It's going to be it's huge for everything that Jim Harbaugh is going to try to do.
Yes, and there's other pieces I'm about to get into, but that O-line is going to be so crucial. Justin Herbert, he's been a trooper. He's been hurt. Who hasn't been? He's played through injury. Who hasn't? But he's become kind of the absolute key part, as most quarterbacks are on their team. Not to say they're not.
Right.
Keeping him upright. It feels like there's too many times he's running on a sprained ankle.
Yep.
And Lord, is it going to be his fingers? He breaks again. His ankle, he sprains again. His thigh that he re-injures. You need to keep him upright.
Yep.
And, Slater a few years ago was a great start to getting that to where it should be with Justin Herbert once they realized who they had. Jewalt, great pick. These other draft picks, I love to see it. And signing Becton is a great step in the right direction. Does it all come together? Who knows? But I like the direction it's heading for a team that's had kind of an average O-line throughout the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Definitely improving, but generally average.
And when you really look at this blueprint, I mean, it is the Jim Harbaugh blueprint that he has followed with the Niners at University of Michigan.
Yeah.
And here we go again, So he knows what to do.
He knows, build up the trenches.
Yep.
And while we're on the offensive side of the ball, why don't we talk about the weapons?
I love it.
Now, one of my favorite things about this offseason, and this might be a hot take, I don't know, Mike Williams coming back. He didn't have the season I expected with Aaron Rodgers. He didn't have the season with the Steelers that I half expected with Russ Wilson and Justin Fields, whoever was playing when he was there. But coming back to the Chargers, I love because it's somewhere Mike Williams is familiar, and it's a person that Justin Herbert knows well. That is a big fella that Quentin Johnston would turn into. I'm still holding out hope that he might catch a few 50-50 balls this season. He did better last year than he did 2 years ago, undoubtedly. But having Mike Williams back in that wide receiver room, I feel like that's maybe not a bad thing for Quentin Johnston, and I really think a great move for Justin Herbert because that's just someone you're familiar with. You know what they're going to do. They used him dangerously for years, like they should have with Keenan Allen.
And
now instead of Keenan, you get Ladd McConkey.
Right.
Maybe
not bad.
I love
Guy
it.
set rookie records or something last year?
He did amazing, phenomenal, above and beyond.
While
also drafting another wide receiver.
Yeah. Actually, Trey Harris, if that's who you're going to mention there, 6'3" and 220. I mean, big guy.
They need another big guy. Mike Williams might be there for 2 years, at most 3. Have Mike Williams train Trey Harris and Quentin Johnston if he still wants to be around for, a third wide receiver with Justin Herbert, which isn't a bad thing.
No.
He just needs healthy wide receivers that can fucking catch.
And it's interesting because they also drafted Keandre Lambert-Smith, another receiver like Trey Harris. They're both big run-after-the-catch receivers. Think Des Bryant and how he used to be like a running back when he got the ball.
Exactly.
Both these guys are like that. And so, again, Quentin Johnston may not even make this roster. Think about that.
Listen, I have been very hopeful for that man for 2 years. He made improvements. 0 to 3 is an improvement, but it's not close to 10.
Right.
So I'm excited to see how this goes. I mean, they tried it with DJ Shark last year. They had Brendan Rice last year. I think they were both injured for an ungodly amount of time. Didn't work out. And Josh Palmer may have still been on the roster last year. I don't think he was. I think he went somewhere else by then. But regardless, I love the idea of now we're giving Herbert weapons. And that's without even mentioning drafting Omarion Hampton first round.
Boom.
Picking up Najee Harris right from the Steelers.
Boom.
Two of the very similar style playing running backs that will more than likely you'll see, taking split handoffs, I would assume.
And Harris, Pittsburgh really lost their identity. They had no offensive identity.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh is going to have an identity, that's for damn sure. And Najee Harris is going to be your banger. Mm-hmm. And Omarion Hampton, he can bang it too, but he's also got breakaway speed.
Yes. And I love Najee coming in. Let Hampton learn from him specifically.
Yep.
Because while not, say what you want about Najee, he's done a pretty good job with the Steelers for what he's had for the last few years.
Not having a quarterback, really?
And I love that Hampton's going to have a chance to learn from him specifically.
Yeah.
Because of his consistency he's had over the last several years.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you.
I didn't expect that first round. I don't know if we ever even talked about that. We probably did, but I didn't expect Hampton to go to the Chargers by any stretch of the imagination. But when you start looking at it, they were like, well, Gus Edwards, well, J.K. Dobbins. It's like, okay, so if that's the route the conversations are going, and the Chargers know that. Yeah, let's go get a running back because Harbaugh's going to do Harbaugh football, which is hard-nosed, run the ball, and complement that with a great passing game.
Yep. And then think about these two things, too, in addition to that. They pick up Tyler Conklin.
Yes, the tight end.
This dude is one of the most underrated blocking tight ends who can also change the game with his hands, too. He runs great routes, and I think that is a real sleeper pick because when the Jets were having shit times, they would go to him in clutch situations, and now Herbert's got him.
Well, do you remember Herbert last year with Will Dissly?
Yeah.
Dissly became a legit fantasy tight end because Herbert would consistently throw him crazy balls.
And he's still on the roster, right?
I believe so. I believe they might have gotten rid of Stone Smart, but they kept Will Dissly, which I'm hoping. I'm going to put something up here if I'm wrong. But,
sure.
I love that for Justin Herbert because
I think it's phenomenal.
He's loved every tight end he's had in his career. Going from, I think it was Evan Ingram, or it was one of the other guys maybe. Yeah. But then he tried with Hayden Hurst, he tried with Stone Smart, he tried with Will Dissly.
Yep.
Justin Herbert loves tight ends.
Yep.
No doubt about it.
And Aronde Gadsden, the tight end that was drafted.
Yes, there's been
great talent, speed tight end, so he can run the seam and he can beat man-to-man coverage. This guy's 6'5" and like 240.
Yes.
Here's a funny thing about this guy. So the assistant general manager for the Chargers is Chad Alexander.
Okay.
Chad Alexander's dad was Hubbard Alexander, who I met many times, a receivers coach for the Cowboys.
Oh, my God.
Aronde Gadsden, that was drafted by Chad Alexander in this draft, his dad, rookie season, was with the Cowboys.
Oh, my God.
And he played for Chad Alexander's dad with the Cowboys.
So there's some family ties here.
So you got NFL legacy here.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty exciting stuff. And for Justin Herbert, the best thing is Gadsden can be a game changer too.
Yes.
So there's another weapon.
Exactly. So while it may not have been the flashy pickups, they didn't get Deebo Samuel. They didn't go after a couple of these other guys that draw some attention. No Diggs, nothing like that.
Right.
It feels like they're really trying to build this up now that they've established key points of the Chargers after last season.
Yep.
Did they lose to a lot of the teams that would go into the playoffs? Yes. But they also handled some good teams, to mention the Chiefs week 4, I want to say. After the Steelers, they were without Slater. They were without Alt.
Right.
Herbert was half injured because he went out of the Steelers game playing that.
That's
he got re-injured in the Chiefs game, came back in the Chiefs game, and they lost 20-10 after scoring 10 points in the first quarter. So it's all heading in the right direction.
Yep. And again, the identity of this team. Now think about it. The AFC West.
Yeah.
How are you going to have a shot to win those games against Broncos now, but mainly the Chiefs?
Yes.
You're going to do that by keeping the ball away from Pat Mahomes.
You have to.
And exactly what Jim Harbaugh is building here is that.
Yes.
Not only that, but a defense that's already plenty solid, even though it's a tougher schedule.
Yes.
Is going to be protected to some extent by the running game of the offense.
Exactly. And you need to play keep away in the AFC West. But good lead-in to defensive dominance.
Yes.
Something I had never experienced as a Chargers fan, and because I'm younger, throw that out there, until last year, where the stat I said earlier, they had the fewest points scored against them. Yes, they may have lost Poona Ford. Yes, Joey Bosa went to the Bills, but they kept Khalil Mack. That's what gives me confidence, is that he looked around and had the opportunity to leave and said, you know what, give it another year. Let's see what happens.
I think if you had to keep one guy, I don't think Bosa, I don't know.
Bless his heart for what he's done for the Chargers. It was his time to leave.
But it was time for a change.
Yes.
But Khalil Mack, you want that guy.
Yes, you want Khalil Mack. He made differences. He attempted to make differences in plenty of games. Poona Ford was a home wrecker. Good luck on the Rams. They really got a weapon there. But some of these other guys that hadn't gotten a shot in the last couple of years, such as Deion Henley, he had a rough start to his career on the Chargers where they didn't use him much the first year.
You're right.
Second year, I think it was last year, he had a couple injuries that kind of kept him off the field. But I think we can expect a huge year from him coming up this upcoming year, where healthy start, they want to use him more. He's driven. He grew up, I think, right outside of Los Angeles, right outside the stadium.
There you go.
It's a personal thing. I feel like we're going to see a big season from him. I'm confident Harbaugh has figured out Derwin James.
Yep.
Those corners were the best. Those corners played the best on the Chargers I've seen in years. And on top of that, you still have Junior Colson, who battled injury last year, but he's a Michigan man.
He's going to be good, yeah.
That Harbaugh knows.
Yep.
And it's all right on injury.
And they also, so Jamari Caldwell, defensive tackle. So I think this is the guy they got probably to replace Poona Ford.
Yeah.
He's 6'1" and 340. So he's going to be the
meatball.
He's going to be the space taker upper right in the middle. They also added Kyle Kennard, a linebacker, edge guy who's going to learn from Khalil Mack.
Yes.
And safety in Jalen Jones in the 4th round, who's a great pick, 6'1", 203. So they got reinforcements on defense, even though it looked like it was a heavy offensive draft. The picks that they made on defense were very key
precision
pieces.
Yes,
that's right.
And I'm very excited about that. I've almost just completely stopped worrying about the defense after what we saw last year.
Yeah.
Given, might slight a little bit. This year might be a little bit more like, well, can we handle them on defense rather than can Justin Herbert throw it over the middle?
Right.
They need to keep that same rhythm this year. And, to blow it in the Texans game, to give up 32, pretty heart-wrenching. But that's also a wake-up call going into this year, which I don't necessarily hate. That is, we need to keep this same thing going forward.
And again, look how fast he's turning this thing around. I mean,
I know.
To make the playoffs, sure, you got beat out of that,
killed.
whatever, but still it's progress.
Yes, it's a great step in the right direction that Brandon Staley just sadly could not get the team turned around after his first season. There's been plenty of talks about the schedule this year. We'll do a schedule review down the road for the Chargers and Cowboys, but I am very excited for how it's going so far.
Well, the biggest thing about the schedule is no other team in the NFL this year travels more miles than the Chargers.
Yes.
They will travel 37,086 miles. The Earth's circumference is only 24,901 miles. Think about that.
That's almost 2.
So they open in Brazil.
Yeah.
Then they open 3 straight games against AFC West opponents, which is just brutal.
That'll set a tone for the rest of the season early.
And they go from Miami to New York to Dallas throughout the season then. So, like you said, we'll come back to it, but there's no other team. The Rams are 2,000 miles less total travel miles, and there's no one close. It's insane.
It's a bit damning, but hey, that's the NFL.
That's right.
It sucks, but you got to play through it. And if this season they can go even-ish, I wouldn't even complain about that.
Nope.
Number 4, keep the special teams hot.
Yep.
Now, they did lose Nick, not Heineke, Nick with a weird name.
Okay.
He's been a key special teams player on the Chargers for a couple years, and they lost him to the Texans, which has happened a few times now. They lose players too. But nevertheless, I'm confident defensive special teams with Harbaugh, they'll figure it out just fine. Not too bad. But they still have Dicker the kicker.
Yes.
A reliable man. And I am hoping that he can just keep it moving this year.
Yep.
The Chargers are going to need to get those extra points and field goals when they can get them. No doubt about it. Every team does.
Yep.
Darius Davis. I am hoping he makes leaps and bounds this year. He's been one of the best punt returners in the NFL, especially for one of the better punt returns in the NFL, and he's been fun to watch. If the defense stays the way they've been staying, pretty dominant, I'm looking to see him have a few punt return touchdowns this year.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the kickoff rules. We'll go over that as we get closer to the season.
No,
but I think that's a pretty good part of it, too, is often forgotten, is making sure your punters can still, put your defense in prime position. If the offensive drive doesn't end up well, Dicker keeps making field goals, Davis keeps returning balls, and find your new weapon when it comes to trying to block field goals.
Yeah, it's a great deal. They also they drafted R.J. Mickens to be a special teamer.
Yep.
And his dad was a former special teams player for the Jets, Ray Mickens. So it's the second time that they go into
special teams.
Well, into NFL bloodlines.
Yes.
To come up with a great pick. So this guy should be a good special teamer to add to what's already been pretty good.
And I'm hoping that's to make up for Nick. Wish you the best on the Texans, but
yeah,
hey,
not
what?
That best.
But not that good. But if your family also with special teams, you'd assume he's learned quite a few things that helped him get to that point.
Yeah.
At least play in the NFL. That's enough of an achievement to know.
Right. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And, slight key to success, I felt like I'd throw it in there because it's often overlooked when you talk about offense and defense. You still need special teams. It's what won the Chargers that AFC game against Peyton Manning, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago now, whenever that was.
Yeah.
Nevertheless.
No, it's a huge piece. You're right. Totally.
The last key to sex. Keys. I'll cut this part out. Final key to success for the Chargers that I could kind of think of off the top of my head. Injuries.
Yes.
Now, this kind of ties in with the O-line, and I don't think you can really stop this. This is, famously the Lions were cursed last year.
Yep.
Plenty of offensive linemen last year were cursed. I think there was some crazy stat at the beginning of the season that, like, by week 3 or 4, more offensive linemen had been hurt that season than any other year. Keeping the team healthy.
Totally right.
Now, how do you prevent that? I don't know. We're not getting into the grass field versus the turf field debate today. But if they can just keep the boys healthy.
Right.
Again, I don't know if that's strength training, if that's strength strategies. Who knows? But I have to admit, I am a little worried about Justin Herbert this year.
Yeah. Again, like you said, he's had some issues. And once the body starts breaking, it tends to keep breaking, it seems.
Yes. Those fingers, that ankle, that hamstring or thigh, I can't remember. And what else do I got? Shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to see what happens this year.
Yep.
Lord, please.
But if they can just protect it better, run the ball more, be more aggressive, less with him sitting back there taking these shots, that'd go a long way.
It really would, and I really hope I don't hear this Colin Kaepernick script with, who'd they pick up from the Cowboys? That was your third string quarterback.
Oh, yeah. Trey Lance.
Trey Lance.
Yeah.
I don't need a Trey Lance villain arc.
You don't want that.
Creeping in here. I don't want the old Tony Romo trick.
Ugh.
I don't need that in my life.
That's brutal.
Might ruin me for a couple weeks. This is the second time, that Herbert's had the same offensive coordinator 2 years in a row.
That's big.
Which sounds kind of silly when he's been playing the NFL for 6-ish years now, but it's also kind of crazy to think he's only had the same offensive coordinator now twice.
I agree.
I think Greg Roman will know what to do more this year with him. Obviously, last year was a first for a lot of things.
Yep.
And I'm pretty confident that'll only lead to better things, too.
Yeah, I mean, now they can build upon it, right? So he gets in there, they get comfortable with it, they get the running game going. Now you can add other elements and other, play action type stuff and all kinds of expand the playbook. So,
exactly. And
seems like it only helps.
Mike Williams being back will have to learn that, but with Herbert, I don't really have much stress. I would love this year if the Chargers could just beat the Chiefs once. I think they've lost 7 games straight. And I think all of them have been one-score games or close to it.
Yeah.
There's some stat where the last amount of Chiefs-Chargers games have been one-score games. Obviously, last year that was its own problem, but
to me, it's probably a 10-7, and like you said, we'll go over the schedule later. But I mean, I really do believe this is a playoff team.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of, can you get them over the hump of that playoff game?
Yeah.
And if they do that, that's huge progress.
And so many of these AFC teams are right there at the end where it's like, you could see 4 teams 10-7.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be 2 really bad AFC teams that take a bulk of the losses, and then the wins will be spread out amongst 4 to 5 people trying to get that 6 and 7 seed at the end of the season again.
Yeah.
And it's always a crapshoot for how week 1 and 2 did that you didn't think necessarily the moment would matter, and now it's coming back because you lost by 10 instead of 7.
Yep.
You're just giving it up to whoever.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. And I think I saw where they plan to unveil a new alternate uniform as well.
Yes,
at the end of July, so that's exciting.
Yeah, end of July, sometime beginning of August, maybe they're coming out with a new alternate. I'm really hoping it's the all black with the alternate helmet that's the black and yellow outline of the Chargers logo.
Oh, that'd be sweet.
From I think the early thousands.
No kidding.
I think there's a chance that's what we're getting because everyone in the Chargers world wants that alternate helmet that's that dark navy blue with the yellow outline.
Okay.
I think.
But interesting.
We'll see. Who knows? Yeah. Maybe it's more of the classic Chargers logo with the horse and the shield and all that stuff.
That could be.
We'll have to see what it is.
Exciting stuff.
Yes. Those were my 5 keys to success. You could throw in a few other things if you really wanted to. Again, it's June, almost July.
Yeah.
Just begging for football.
Yep. And again, tougher schedule.
Yes.
Better roster.
Yes.
Continued cultural impact of Jim Harbaugh. Player development, which I think he's very good at. I was just before we came in here, I was watching highlights of him at minicamp.
Oh boy!
And he was working on a lot of footwork with the quarterbacks. And so, if he's getting into that kind of player development, and the work ethic that he has, that's a big deal. That'll serve throughout the season,
without a doubt,
as things get tougher.
For sure.
So
I'm excited, and we should be due for maybe 2 to 3 good Harbaugh quotes about Justin Herbert between now and August. We'll have to see what he says, but I'm looking for some crazy shit. Not quite Dan Campbell biting kneecaps off, but maybe more along the lines of just like, wow, he's great. We'll have to see.
Definitely loves him, doesn't he?
Yes, no doubt. 85.
85, yeah.
Do you have a favorite Cowboys player that wore 85?
I think I would go back to the 90s Cowboys, kind of toward the end of the Super Bowl runs, and they had Kevin Williams.
Oh.
And in the year 1995, the Cowboys played on Christmas Day. The Cowboys were lacking that second receiver, and Kevin Williams, I think, on Monday Night Football had a breakout game and had some 140 yards receiving or something,
wow.
And they went on and won Super Bowl 30 against the Steelers.
Wow.
So
hell of a game to come out and play.
Yeah, and it was a Monday night, I think it was a Christmas game.
Okay.
Whether it was Monday or night, I'm not sure, but I just remember it's like, where the hell has this guy been? And he played well the rest of the time. So
wow, that's all it took.
Yeah.
One good game, and the rest is
broke
history.
Him out. That's right. How about you?
85. I'd have to probably go with one of the most classic Chargers of all time immediately, Antonio Gates. How can you beat it? We watched him play in Cincy. He got a touchdown called back at that game when we went with over the Rhine with Jason and Jordan.
Oh yeah, okay. That one.
Yeah, that one I remember distinctly. But Antonio Gates.
Yeah.
Enough said. One of the best tight end of all time.
Yeah, I recently saw a statistic about the most career touchdowns for a tight end.
Oh.
And I think Antonio Gates was the guy.
I think he still holds one record.
Yeah, I think it's that one.
Okay, because I know.
Even Gonzalez and Gronkowski were on the list, and I was shocked it was Antonio Gates.
And I think it's because Rivers left him for so long.
Yeah.
But between Gonzalez, Gronkowski, Antonio Gates, and Travis Kelce, and I don't think
Tony Gonzalez was on there. Did I ever say that?
Yeah, and I don't think Kittle's up there just yet.
No, I don't think so.
But between those 4, they hold most of the records for tight ends, if my memory serves me.
Yeah.
Because I think Kelce broke one last year. Gonzalez definitely still holds a couple. Gronkowski, I'm sure, holds a couple.
Yeah.
And I think Antonio Gates might be holding on to that one.
I think it is. Because I was surprised it was him.
Yes.
But like you say, if you think back to how many times Phil Rivers went to him, it was a ton.
He was a great fantasy tight end for years.
Yeah, he was. That's right.
But I think that does it for us.
Perfect, man.
Hey,
go Chargers.
Go Chargers. Bolt up, baby. Keep it easy and keep it breezy. We'll be back next week with another episode.
Peace.